Welcome back again. I, yeah, that's not the best entrance, but I really don't like pausing and restarting these. So, pretty strong track record if we just follow through with the recording because it's easier. So, anyway, more articles from Psychology Today. We're wrapping up. This might be the last one, although I think I'm going to do one more in this issue, the June issue. All of you so blessed to receive all this info before June. Wow. So, this article is called The Death of I Don't Know. Is AI making us smarter or just more certain? By John Nosta. There's actually quite a few articles on AI in here. I'm only doing one of them. Just, I don't know. I talk about the ones that are super interesting to me. AI is super interesting, but not every article about AI is super interesting to me. The crux of this, though, is a conceptual extinction of saying, I don't know. We can just look it up. And people do this with Google, and we talk about this here in a second, but search engines in general can prevent I don't know. Now, what we know about memory recall is that challenge helps with that a lot. So, if it's hard to remember something, you're more likely to remember it. Seems ironic, but I'll explain that a little bit. If my brain knows that the only way for me to remember a phone number is to look it up in the yellow pages, it's going to want to remember that because it takes effort to go to the yellow pages. Or what if I'm not home and I'm more likely to remember this? Now, if I know I can just Google an answer, I don't need to. I don't need to. My brain knows I don't need to because I can just get on my phone. So my recommendation is if there's anything that you actually find very important to learn, actually add some difficulty towards acquiring that information. Make it a little bit harder. Do it through reading. Do it through an encyclopedia. That sounds silly. Or spend more time learning it and doing recall and putting attention to it because the need for memorization is less today than it's ever been. You can just look stuff up, and internet is only getting more accessible with things like Starlink and general internet access across the world. We don't really need to remember. Even data is getting better with 5G. It just we can, that's better than the past. I remember the struggle of working with 3G on my phone in the past. And it's just better now. I can get connection in most places. I don't really have to worry about it. Point being is recall is less necessary. And with that, the I don't know statement is less necessary. Why not know when we can just look it up? The issue with that is there's the saying of wisdom and knowledge are not the same thing. They are different. This is really funny to me, but the example that I like, and it is a joke, but I think it's so true, is that knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad, right? You can ask ChatGPT, is tomato a fruit? And it'll say yes. If you ask if you should put it in a fruit salad, that's a nuanced answer. Should I do it? I don't know. But a wise person knows that you're going to ruin that fruit salad for everybody, right? So that's what's missing. And I can't speak to the future, but we don't have that. Google and ChatGPT, they're not wise. They gather information. And wisdom is not information. Wisdom comes after information. We gather and we create inference and we create a possible outcome based on the information gathering. They're very helpful for gathering knowledge, not for making wise choices. There's so much more that goes on. The author gives a really good definition of intelligence. Lots of definitions of that, but in the context of this, I think this is helpful and useful. He says true intelligence is not just about retrieving information, it's about grappling with complexity, navigating nuance, and sometimes resisting the seductive pull of a quick answer. AI provides rapid responses, but does it encourage real thinking? If you read any philosophy books, it's all thinking. Seems obvious. Go back to the Greeks and the Hebrews and the ability to think and to have nuanced answers. A huge part of wisdom is in that. And just having an answer doesn't help. There's complexity in decision making and how we value the world around. Now, I think a lot of that is because humans are deeper than just programs. And we're not just another version of a computer. I don't believe we're just a higher tech version of a computer. There's nuance to the human existence. There's morals that apply. It's not just this logical yes and no. And it's good to say, I don't know. A lot of wisdom comes from an I don't know and the ability to humble ourselves. I mean, think of any Politician and leader, a lot of them, I shouldn't say any, think of a high level people here. One of the biggest problems I have with a lot of leadership is the amount of times they refuse to say they don't know the answer to something. And I understand from a data point, people are less likely to vote for you when you don't have answers. And it's a failing of the people more than it is of a politician. A politician, in my opinion, and a high level leader should be encouraged to not know. But we as the general people condemn them for that. So I think we share culpability as a society in that. I'd rather have a leader say, I don't know, but here's my plan to find out, than to make up an answer. I hate that. It's so important to say you don't know, and it humanizes you. And to say, I'm going to have to figure this out, or I need time to think. I find that very respectable. There's no president we've ever had in the US that really knows the answer to everything. A lot of them can talk really well and are very charismatic. And despite what people say, every president is smart in their own way. It's very hard to get into that position, and they've done it. And they're really good at wooing the populace and the people around them. Pretty much everyone will tell you when they meet a president that they feel great because that's strong charisma. That person knows how to make you feel important and good, right? Doesn't mean they know the answer to everything. Talented in some ways, but not in others. We don't know the answer to everything. And it's important to have a good team. When I don't know something for running my business, I try to go to other experts. I don't just pretend I know. I don't. I need to go to other experts to do that. Anytime I'm in any leadership position, I have to know my own limitations or I can't move forward. And even if I can use AI and Google to help, great. Then I still have to wrestle with the wisdom within that and the relational impact of these things. So it is, I think, a very relevant topic to discuss the limitations of AI and Google in response to us not knowing things. I also want to read this section from the article that I think is really important. He titles it The Google Effect 2.0. Two very short paragraphs. The original Google effect, sometimes referred to as cognitive offloading, taught us that when information is readily available, we remember where to find it rather than the content itself. Now, AI is evolving this phenomenon, moving beyond facts and into the realm of interpretation, synthesis, and analysis. If AI does the cognitive heavy lifting for us, do we stop exercising our own mental muscles? If we let AI summarize books, will we still read deeply? If we rely on it to structure our thoughts, will we still learn to think structurally? We risk outsourcing the cognitive process itself, not just the retrieval of knowledge. One of the best pieces of advice and knowledge I've ever received about the brain is it is a lazy organ. It will do as little as possible to accomplish its task. This is why creating new healthy habits is hard. The brain, like water, takes the path of least resistance. If we've created the neural pathway for a bad habit, I'm stressed, therefore I drink. Even if it destroys our body, our brain says that's the route I know. This is why separating your brain and your mind is so important. Because you can say, I know this is wrong, and then you do it. And your brain's making it. Why doesn't your brain just hijack that spot and make it so desirable to do the good thing? Because you are more than just your brain. There's more going on. So where we get more philosophical discussions about spirit and soul and what's deeper, this existential part of the human experience. Mind and brain are separate. And I'm fine if you argue, well, mind is a representation of the brain, whatever, just genuinely whatever. The point is that you can have conflicting parts internally. I want to stop drinking. But every time I get stressed, my brain highlights this easier path. If we know we shouldn't, why do we keep doing it? Anyone who's struggled with any positive change understands this to their own experience. It's unique to you in terms of the specifics, but everyone deals with it. I say all that to say that people do run the risk of we will let technology take over. Human history shows that simplicity. This is why you've had things like communism thrive in other countries, is people are willing to sacrifice freedoms and safeties for simplicity. And we do this all the time. We take a pill to lose weight, right? I'm not saying that's wrong for everyone to do, but it's the easier route, isn't it? Now, some people really need to do that. Again, this is a generalization here. We take medications to deal with mental illness. There are mental illnesses that medication is heavily needed. And there are a lot of people who take them that they don't need it. They just don't want to put the work in. We will take the path of least resistance. And this is individualized. So we can't look at what everyone's doing. As I said before, there are some people who really just need to make a lot of behavioral changes. They don't need the Xanax and they don't need the Adderall. However, there are a lot of people that really need lithium to manage their mental well-being, and it's night and day different, and they need it. But if we blanket statement everyone, that doesn't work. However, everyone still will deal with the same thing of what do I offload versus what do I actually take the time to challenge myself to do. And I say all this to lead into the phrasing of I don't know is so helpful, and to be with good people that you can talk to about that and to say, I'm uncertain about this, and to sit with that. A huge part of the Hebraic philosophy, that Judeo Christian philosophy, is actually the importance of uncertainty and mystery. That's pretty pivotal to the, we'll say, biblical belief system, is not knowing things. And a lot of Hebraic thought as well, answering questions with questions. Not everyone likes that. There's other things involved in that that you might not like, and that's fine. But humans actually, despite what it might feel like, we thrive in uncertainty because it stresses you in a way to be creative and to think. So while I am not going to sit here and say everyone should stop using Google and AI and that we should all just make life hard for ourselves, the question is, how do you maintain your autonomy in your critical thinking? You just believe what CNN and Fox tell you. That's, I don't think you should have to be a journalist, but where does your critical thinking come in? A huge issue we dealt with a couple of years ago with vaccines. People saying, I'm going to do my own research. The researchers can't even do their own research. They conflicted each other. And to understand virology perfectly and everything about infectious disease, that can take a lifetime, and they're still learning more. So to think that I can just go Google it, but at the same time, my Google search is going to be specific to me. I'm going to Google how the vaccine affects people at the time, for me, men in their early 20s, maybe specifically white men in their early 20s. There's a limit to that, right? So there's a level of trust with, yeah, I need to just trust Google when I put this information in. Then I go to Google and I type something in, and then I go to DuckDuckGo and I type something in, which is a little bit more private, and it blocks ads and it blocks a certain level of bias, and my results are different. So I'm like, okay, how do we really find the information we need? So I think there's a healthy integration of using tools that make life easier while also critically thinking. And the question there might be, how much can you safely figure out on your own before you need to enlist technology? And how often do you trust the world around you to offer input, specifically those close to you, for wisdom? And we can get info here, get info there, get info here, and then bring it together with ourselves and maybe people we trust and say, how do I now then make the wise decision? I've learned about medications from this person. These people say you should never use medication. These people think you should only use medication. This is more nuanced. This is this is an answer to the diagnosis that I'm dealing with. That person answered a different diagnosis. I don't know if it applies to me. I'm information gathering. I'm asking Google about my diagnosis, about medication. I'm asking AI about it. And then I have to make my decision based on the accumulation of that info, hopefully with wise counsel, and hopefully result in a wise decision, knowing that I could be wrong and I'm actually not certain that it's right, but it's the best I have. So, yeah, I don't really have a transition out from that, but each person's important. Each person has capacity to do a lot of great things. And I think finding the balance of using assistance and challenging ourselves to be the best version of ourselves is a beautifully difficult thing to do. And I hope the best for everyone as they navigate that. So that is that. See ya.